refreshment I got is the aforementioned.
Well, we're live now, so Ben Cohen and I were talking about liquid refreshments. Happy Friday to everybody. We hope it is a happy Friday. We know that COVID is still looming large, civil unrest. We're going through a lot right now. We wanted to bring you a little joy on this Friday night. This is a special edition of Drop the Mic 2020 with yours truly and the man himself, the minister of ice cream. He will forever be the minister of ice cream, Mr. Ben Cohen. BC, we started this journey together with Drop the Mic. I cannot believe it's been 2 months.
What a pleasure, Nina. Your praises have rung loudly in my ears. People have been really enjoying the show. You've been doing such a great job. I am honored to be the grand semi-finale of the show. But I hear the show isn't really going to be over, but it's the semi-grand finale.
Semi-grand finale. Absolutely. This was so much fun and so educational that we must keep it going. We just can't stop.
You just can't stop.
Stop. Yo, really addicted to giving people information. How about that?
Information in a fun kind of way. It's happy hour. It's Friday happy hour with Nina and Ben.
Nina and Ben. So we've been on this journey educating people about something, BC, that you've been working on for a very long time to really understand where their money's going and how the military industrial complex, that's what our mic stands for, is gobbling up so much money and is not making us any more safe. And Edward gave us some breaking news, which is that Senator Chuck Schumer signed on to support Senator Sanders' efforts to cut that budget by 10%. How about that?
Yeah, I'll say how about that. I mean, 10%, it's not much of a change in the Pentagon budget, but it's $70 billion for all the stuff that we really need to really keep us secure and, creating a country that meets people's basic needs.
It's a wonderful thing. And I'm going to go ahead and give Senator Schumer some credit. I mean, as much as I'm surprised, but this is certainly a good thing, and hopefully more senators will follow suit and not just use this as a way to say, hey, look what I've done as an individual, but really to try to get their colleagues in that Senate to do something. That would be a really big, how about that?
Yeah, I mean, when you think about what you could do for $70 billion, I mean, you could eliminate lead poisoning that's still occurring for little kids in our country from flaking lead paint on the walls of the housing they're forced to live in, and from the lead pipes that we're still using to this day. I mean, it's just amazing. When it comes to the Pentagon, they say no amount of money is too much. And yet, when it comes to actually saving lives, actually saving brains from being permanently, impacted for the rest of a kid's life, somehow or other we say, well, we just don't have enough money for that.
Can't afford it. And not only do they not want to cut, but they make people who advocate in ways that you have been advocating for a long time, people like me and others, they really make you feel bad for advocating that we touch any of that Pentagon budget, as if we...
I don't feel bad. I feel good.
I don't feel bad.
I feel good. We're advocating to really create a secure country in terms of healthcare, in terms of education, in terms of housing, in terms of food. I mean, geez, what? You feel bad? No. You don't feel bad. You feel good. I feel good. You feel good. They try to make us feel bad, but it ain't happening.
No, because they put up an illusion. It's a false choice. Not only is it a false narrative, it's also a false choice. If somehow we cut the Pentagon budget, we then put this country in peril, and nothing can be further from the truth. We are not more safe by continuing to allow this Pac-Man I shouldn't give Pac-Man a bad name, by allowing the military industrial complex to just gobble up all of our tax dollars. But meanwhile, back at home, we don't have money for just basic needs. We're not even asking for anything.
I mean, I don't remember whether it was Eisenhower or Martin Luther King who said that the key in defense is figuring out how much you can spend on protecting yourself from without before you destroy yourself from within.
Amen.
Well, I figured it out. We're spending too much freaking money on destroying who? I mean, the countries we're concerned about: Iraq, Iran, Libya, North Korea, Cuba. I mean, they spend what, $15 billion between them, and we spend 700 billion, over 700 billion. And then you say, oh, well, we're concerned about China or Russia. I mean, none of them spend more than, I don't know, a third of what we're spending.
That's right. But it's a psychological thing too, BC. Our country, I mean, in our DNA and who we are as Americans, we have been programmed to believe that this is the way we stay mighty, that this is the way we remain a hegemon, this is the way we defeat all the bad people in the world.
This is the way we go down the tubes. I mean, we're just not meeting our basic human needs. It's not about, I mean, we can't deal with the issues that we're facing through force. We need to deal with them through diplomacy, through understanding, through working together with other nations. I mean, force isn't going to get us where we want to go. I mean, force gets us a bunch of blowback. I mean,
hatred.
Military solutions don't last. They create more military problems.
That's right. That's exactly right. Hatred, resentment. Ben, we've had many great experts on Drop the Mic 2020 over the last 8 weeks. And one thing that Jody Evans, who is one of the leaders of Cold Pink, said that I think about it not every day, but almost every day, which is peace takes work. How about that?
Absolutely. I mean, that's what we need to do, is wage peace. I mean, peace is not the absence of war. It is the presence of justice. And if we want to create a peaceful world, we need to work for justice. That's the truth. That's the reality. I mean, Jesus, I mean, you've seen how much money we've been spending on the Pentagon and how much wars we've been creating. I mean, it doesn't seem like we're creating a peaceful world. I mean, it just seems like it's a world of endless war.
No, it really is. And it breeds resentment across the globe. People resent us, and that makes us have to watch our back everywhere we go. I mean, it even makes Americans less safe when they travel abroad because of what we do in this country and how we treat other countries. No, it doesn't make it right, but we have a role that we are playing. We certainly are not using our hegemon status to be the nation, the world's leader in creating peaceful solutions for human beings to exist together in as much harmony as we can find. We know it's never going to be perfect, but if we never try, we're never going to find out how close to perfection we can get.
I keep on thinking again of what Martin Luther King said, that darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that.
Yeah.
Hatred cannot drive out hatred. Only love can do that.
Yes.
I mean, it's kind of as clear as the nose on your face. And supposedly, where people have religious, where what we consider ourselves to be, I don't know, a kind of a religious country that the money says in God we trust.
It does.
I mean, my understanding, according to Jesus Christ, who's a guy I love. I mean,
I
I'm a Jew. You know, I don't know. I mean, I, I'm I love Jesus. What can I say? I mean, this is the guy who's saying that we need to lead our lives based on peace and love, the Prince of Peace. I mean, I mean, do we believe in that stuff or do we not? I mean, it just seems so hypocritical.
we are hypocrites, and yes, we believe when it's convenient to believe, but not as a mode of operandi on a regular basis, and only when it suits our needs. In God we trust. So we talked over the course of 8 weeks about how this budget continues to grow. That under President Bush, it was about $400 billion, Congressman Rokana told us. And under President Obama, it grew to about $600 billion. And now under this president, $720 billion. I think I'm a little light there, but well over $700 billion. The types of questions that we have gotten over the last 8 weeks, people always want to know, what can they do? What role can they play in advocating that less money is spent on the military industrial complex and more money is spent domestically?
Yeah, you know, there's a bunch of organizations that are working on it. We need to make our voice heard. Code Pink is doing incredible work on this issue. The War Resisters League is doing great work on this issue. Uh, there's a whole list of organizations that, and now, like you say, Schumer has come on board to this 10% cut. We need to all get on our Congress people, representatives out in the streets demanding, yeah, it's enough is enough. We need to start using this money to solve the real needs of our people, because, you know, I mean, the absurdity that Russia's going to invade us, right, China's going to invade us. I mean, give me a break. I mean, the US, you know, biggest military power in the world. I mean, we can't even occupy Iraq.
Right.
I mean, so
before,
you know, the absurdity that some other country is going to come in and try to occupy the US is you know, just make believe. And it's just justification to, you know, have a defense budget that's essentially enriching defense contractors, you know, enriching corporations that are paying their CEOs hundreds of millions of dollars, that are there in Congress spending, you know, hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars to influence legislation, to influence what goes on there. I mean, I'm always amazed when I get to DC, you know, and hang out in the metro there. I mean, all the ads are from Lockheed Martin, you know, buy this $1.5 trillion weapon system and we will keep America safe.
Right.
It's all full of that crap. And it's bullshit.
Technical term, it is bullshit. I love it when you talk that way. You know, Ben, you were talking about the different organizations. So we have World Beyond War. We have Common Defense, Code Pink, as you name, About Face, Peace Action. Our Revolution is doing work in this space. The Poor People's Campaign, or the Poor People's Movement, doing work in this space. Public Citizen, I should say, Veterans for Peace, Roots Action. So many organizations that people can join and become a part of to do their part. And most immediately, as you laid out, let's come on and lobby the senators to support Senator Sanders' push to cut that Pentagon budget by 10%. And then we also have Congresswoman Barbara Lee, who is advocating a $300 billion cut. Hello, somebody, to that.
I mean, Barbara Lee, I mean, that cut by half is exactly what makes sense. It's exactly what is rational. When you think that the next highest spending country that we see as a potential adversary is spending maybe 200 billion. Yeah.
Right.
All right. So we cut it in half. We continue to spend 370 billion.
Yeah.
Uh, that's enough. I mean, geez, I mean, how much? I mean, in addition to the money that we spend, there's all of our allies that are committed by international law and international treaty to defend us in the event of any military problem. And when you add up all those guys,
Yeah.
we're probably back up at 700 billion if we were to cut ours in half.
Absolutely. And the more we spend, the more other nations want to spend too, because nobody wants to be left behind.
Absolutely. It is the US that is driving the arms race.
Yeah.
And yeah, if we weren't spending that much, they wouldn't spend that much. They're concerned about us attacking them.
There it is. I mean,
the sad reality is that the only way for a country to be sure that the US is not going to attack them is to have their own nuclear weapons. Once you have your own nuclear weapons, then the US says, no, I don't want to mess with you.
right.
And that's what's driving them to do it.
It does drive them. And unfortunately, we are the only, well, not unfortunately, I wish we hadn't have done it ourselves, but we are the only nation to drop a nuclear bomb on another nation.
That's exactly right. And and what a horror that was. We dropped 2 nuclear bombs.
Yes.
They had about 15 megatons of explosive force. We don't even have any nuclear weapons. Well, virtually none of our nuclear weapons are that small anymore.
Yes.
They are like 10 times that amount. I mean, when we dropped that bomb on Hiroshima, we destroyed that entire city.
Yes.
And now we're saying we need bigger ones, and so we're doing that on with one hand of the nuclear warriors, and on the other hand of the nuclear warriors, they're saying, well, let's create really, really little nuclear bombs so that we can actually use them. And that's what they're in the process of doing.
And that happened, started under President Obama's administration.
That's correct. I mean, so this is definitely a bipartisan issue.
Yes, it is.
Both political parties have been spending irrational amounts of our money, on trying to kill other people in our name. Other mothers, other fathers,
Other
their
children.
sons and daughters, sisters, brothers, people like us. That's what we're doing. We're practicing to do that. And, it just drives me crazy. I happen to live near an Air National Guard base that's flying F-35 fighter jets, fighter bombers.
Yeah.
The most expensive weapon system ever in the history of our country. And I hear them flying overhead most days, and I realize what they are doing is practicing to kill people like you and me and my daughter and my wife and my mother-in-law, who's living right here right now. And I love her. I have no problems with my mother-in-law. She doesn't speak the same language that I do, so we don't really communicate that well. But I love my mother-in-law. And
record.
I don't, I mean, the idea that we are practicing to bomb people like us over in other countries that we have nothing against. I was thinking recently about Muhammad Ali. I mean, this the heavyweight champion of the world.
Yes.
And he said, no, I'm not going to go into the army to kill mothers, fathers, sisters, brothers, children. I have nothing against those people in that other country.
That's right.
And he went to jail instead.
Yeah, lost his title.
What an amazing, courageous, principled guy. Incredible. Beautiful.
And we need more of that. I mean, he even talked about this through the lens of race too, in terms of his experience in this country as a Black man, and making it very clear that you want me to go over there and fight other brown people who have not done anything to me. Meanwhile, back in this country, my people are not treated equally. And, he said none of them have ever called me nigger. I mean, that was the bottom line, is what he said. So not only the courage, and I rarely use that word, I usually say the N word because it just hurts me so much, the word itself. His clarity on that, both from a universal humanistic point of view, and it was rational too. When he thinks about a country that continues to treat Black people like second-class citizens, other people of color, for him to stand up there boldly in the face of that kind of power to say, I'm not going to do it. And you can do what you want to me. I'm not going to do it. You can't make me go over there. And in that moment when he was doing that, he was not seen as a hero by the majority. I mean, there were people, anti-war people, who were out there protesting and saying we shouldn't do that. But they being the government, took everything from him and they tried to destroy him. He did recover though. He rose like the phoenix. But my God,
he was vilified.
He really was.
And Martin Luther King was vilified when he came out against the war in Vietnam.
Yes, he was. Not popular at the time that they were doing it, but history has proven both of them right, as well as other courageous leaders who may not be as well known, who had the courage to stand up against a system of war, a system of destruction, because that really is what this is. We are preparing for destruction and making that seem normal.
Exactly.
And again, we, sisters and brothers who are with Dan and myself tonight, another thing that we can do besides lobbying our members of Congress is to continue to educate ourselves and educate other people. Have these kinds of conversations with your neighbors and your family and your friends, because it is important that the grassroots continue to push. It's not going to change without the grassroots, BC. It's just not going to.
Well, I mean, the whole theory of drop the mic is that we are trying to build a team of people that will distribute the information that we're putting out. We're putting out easily digestible, bite-sized little pieces of social media that deal with this issue, but deal with it in a way that's not complex, a way that's easy to get in a flash, and to keep on spreading that out to people in our networks. And the idea is that as we spread it out to more and more people in our networks, it starts crossing over into people that are outside of our networks, because people know other people, they got family members, whatever, that are not exactly in the fold yet. And we just need to keep passing it around so that it gets outside of our bubble, that it bleeds out a little.
That's right, the ripple effect. And speaking of social media, those of you who are on Facebook right now, you also can follow us on Twitter at Drop the Mic 2020. Tell a friend, tell about 5 friends and 5 family members. But being back to your point about bite-sized chunks that people can digest and also relate to their everyday lives, one dropped a mic nugget from Twitter. Did you know the Pentagon spends more in 1 second than the average US renter spends on housing in a year? Did you know? And you see how we related that? I mean, that's very, the average citizen in this country can, in their mind's eye, understand exactly what that means. That's what Drop the Mic 2020 does on social media. So we need you to spread the word, baby.
I mean, you talk about bite-sized chunks. I like to look at myself as the king of bite-sized chunks.
Yes, touche. Ben and Jerry's ice cream while we dropping the mic, baby. How about this one from David Swanson, one of the leaders of World Beyond War? He says, the best way to stop terrorism is to stop creating it. Hello, somebody.
I like that.
I like that too. That's simple. Here's another one. You are being forced to subsidize, you being really us, our money in our name. Where does the money go? You are being forced to subsidize weapons and oil corporations with hundreds of billions of dollars every year without your consent. Now, who's going to let people spend their money without their consent? I mean, let folks think about their personal bank accounts. They need to think about this money the same way because it's our tax dollars. And you're not just going to let somebody spend your money without your consent. Don't you get a say about how your money is spent? We should.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should. Oh my God. How about this one? Politicians need to stop calling this the greatest country in the world when the phrase student lunch debt is a common U.S. vernacular. Hello, somebody on that one.
I hear you about that. You know, I mean, there never used to be a Department of Defense. It used to be the Department of War.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what it is. And we should return to calling a spade, or calling the reality the reality.
Yes.
I mean, you know, so much stuff gets kind of shoved under the rug with euphemisms, and you start thinking that, well, the Pentagon is about defending the country, but it is not. It's about wars that we create in other countries. The weapons that we're creating, they are not defensive weapons. They are offensive weapons. They're not anti-aircraft guns. They're bombers that are designed to go deep into other countries and kill civilians there. I mean, you know, it's amazing to me that, you know, I don't know, during what war was it that the Pentagon came up with this idea that, oh, we don't really kill civilians. We do surgical strikes. You know, we don't really kill people. You know, we just kill, you know, this evil individual. Well, it's a load of shit. It's not true. I mean, it came out eventually, you know, there was a time when they kept on playing this video of this bomb that, you know, kind of went down and then around and went in the front door of, you know, some militant's house. And the reality was that it was one bomb like that worked, and they kept on replaying it. But don't fool yourself. The huge majority of people that die from our bombs are civilians, and we are bombing, I don't know how many different countries at this very moment.
In our name.
With our money.
Our money. My God, when you put it that way, and it's just, it's horrific, it's daunting, and we should know that those people are us. I mean, that could be us. The roles could be reversed, and their nations could be bombing our nation. So we need to really think about that.
Except none of them have what it takes to bomb our nation. We don't have to worry about it. But
what
you're saying is exactly right. I
That's
mean,
what,
we are
yeah.
bombing people like us who just happen to have the misfortune of living in some country that the U.S. has somehow decided that we need to kill their people.
It's unacceptable, and it's also unsustainable. We can't keep going like this, and so that's why we the people have to stand up and care about this issue, because it impacts every other issue you care about. So if you want more education funding, if you want funding to go into healthcare, if you ever dream of the day that we will get Medicare for all, then that's another discussion for us for another time. If you care about infrastructure, every precious thing that we care about is tied to this Pentagon budget. I mean, there are ways for us to be able to afford those nice things only if we force the people who we put in that Congress to stop spending money on the Pentagon and start spending money on the people. Then we have a comment from MJ. MJ says, I wish every time you vote, you get to choose where your tax dollars go. How about that? One to education, number one, do you want to go to education, military, health, housing, infrastructure, etc.? Wouldn't that be wonderful? Could you picture that going in to vote?
That would be beautiful. I mean, another way to do it
Yeah.
is to go to the people that are running for office and say, what kind of budget do you want? I mean, are you going to advocate for putting more money into education, healthcare, housing, you name it, and less into the Pentagon?
Yes, the people's budget.
Yeah.
Good, MJ. That's good. That's really good. Yes, we can, but until we get that kind of ballot, because I'm loving that idea, Ben is absolutely right. You can demand of the people who are running for office at the time that they're running, start questioning these folks about where they stand on the military budget before they even get into the Congress.
I mean, you can make it easy. I mean, my understanding is that the Congressional Progressive Caucus puts out an alternative budget every year, and it does what we're talking about doing. And you just say, do you support the Congressional Progressive Caucus budget, or do you support the horrendous thing that Congress passed last time?
Right. And get them to commit or admit where they are, tell you where they are. Another thing that you can do is run. I mean, I'm sure there are lots of people watching us tonight who care deeply about these issues, and they should get out there and run for office and help be the change and make the difference. And this even impacts local level too, because you were just talking, BC, about what's you hear the planes every night, every day, and that's local. That's real close to you. How did they get the land? How did they get the permits? All of those things go into it. So even though the Congress should be held the most accountable, state and local government and regional government, for that matter, they have a role to play too. Every level of government has a role to play, and we need to ask all of our elected officials to pay attention to this, but particularly the Congress. I mean, the buck really does stop with them ultimately. But we're not.
Yeah, I think so. And the way that we get progressive politicians into Congress is to elect progressive politicians to local office. That's where it starts. That's how they get in. And anytime you can find a progressive person who's looking to run for town council or state, we got to get them in.
Absolutely. We have to get them in. Progressive world doesn't happen just through the Congress. It happens at every level of government. You're talking about building, creating a very strong foundation.
I'm talking about the ladder, the entry point that I mean, we have a Congress. I mean, we have a guy now who's running for governor in the state of Vermont, who started off as a council, this in the state legislature, and then he got elected to the lieutenant governor, and now we're going to get him elected to governor, and then we're going to get him into the Senate. That's how it works.
That's how it works. We must build. You must build. We must build. This is not about any one individual. It is about us collectively being the difference, being the change that we want to see in the world. BC, we can do it. It seems daunting. It is. It's a lot of hard work. Now, we're not going to delude anybody. This is work, some sweat equity on this, but we can do it.
It is the joyful journey for justice.
A joyful journey.
That's what we're on.
With ice cream from time to time. How about that?
Big chunks.
Ice cream from time to time. So, what about people who still believe that, we have, well, no, I'll forget that. I won't ask that question. We talk a little bit about, hopefully you can back me up on this, is that Pentagon, that money, because so many people think that money goes to our enlisted men and women or to veterans who have already served. And that pot of money that we are talking about, correct me if I'm wrong, does not go to helping enlisted men and women right now or to veterans who are suffering.
I think about half of the Pentagon budget goes to defense contractors, and it certainly does not go to veterans. That's actually outside of the Pentagon budget, and it's kind of amazing that those politicians that are fighting hard to get more and more money into the Pentagon don't really give much of a
rat's ass.
Thank you. About the veterans who already served, the veterans that put their lives at risk, the veterans that come home with the mental and physical scars of war. They kind of just throw them by the wayside. That doesn't help them. What? Kill more people. I don't know what it is. That they just don't care. They don't care about those people that bear the brunt of a militaristic policy that the people in DC have created. I mean, things would be a lot different if it was their sons and daughters that ended up going to war.
Amen to that. And there are so many of our enlisted men and women, even if a little bit of that money goes, not half of it. I mean, but some of them live below the poverty line, or they live in such a way that the salaries that they get while they are enlisted is not enough to sustain them and their families. They have to be subsidized. I know military families like that. I've talked to families like that. And so we're, even if most of that money was going to make sure that our enlisted men and women were living a good life, that they didn't have to subsidize, have their salary subsidized, but that's not even happening. They're not making that kind of money hand over fist like that. They make very little money, actually.
I mean, the people who make the big bucks are essentially mercenaries. They are private contractors that the Pentagon hires to provide, quote, security and all these other jobs in war zones.
Mm-hmm.
Our guys are getting paid doodly squat.
That's right.
And the hired contractors are getting paid gobs of money.
Yeah, I think it was Major Shorson, Danny, that shared with us that a lot of there's some resentment within
I'll say there's resentment.
Enlisted men and women, because they see these mercenaries getting 6-figure salaries and they're not, and they don't have nearly the responsibility, the obligation that somebody does who works officially for the military versus those who are working for a private contractor, and they're making 6 figures, and our enlisted men and women are, to use your technical term, making doodly squat. And a lot of them, maybe not a lot, but some of them do decide that when they get out, they're gonna go work on the other side because of the money.
Yeah.
And again, that's no way to, first of all, they don't have the same responsibilities or obligations on the mercenary side that our enlisted men and women do. They don't have to answer to we the people, even though it's our money, in the same way that enlisted men and women do. And it is certainly no way, again, to make us a safer nation by hiring a whole bunch of mercenaries who really don't have to answer to we the people. That's what the military has to answer to we the people. They do not.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's true. I think, you run into these situations where these private contractors have committed war crimes and somehow they get away with it.
No way. Yeah. It's daunting, but I do see promise in the problem. And that promise has to do with us organizing and getting out there and supporting organizations that are fighting, supporting people who are running and people who are also already in that Congress who are willing to put up a fight, and that we understand very clearly, BC, where our money goes. Any parting thoughts for folks on this fine Friday night?
Just that we all gotta continue fighting for justice. I mean, when you are confronted with a situation of injustice, you kind of have three alternatives. You can accept it, you can complain about it, or you can do something about it. And I mean, in terms of your heart and your soul and your spirit, doing something about it is a lot better than accepting it or just complaining about it.
There it is. Do something about it. We all can do something about it. So let's do that. Let's do it together. So I am yours truly, TNT, SNT. I don't know what they calling me these days.
I like TNT. I'm going to switch to that one.
TNT, the Nina Turner, TNT.
Oh, I thought it was about dynamite.
Dynamite, TNT. My friend and colleague, Ben Cohen, you are such a blessing to the world. And I'm so glad to be able to be on a journey, on the justice journey with you. We are only just beginning. So join us, join BC and TNT on this journey, this justice journey. Help us drop the mic. So follow us on Twitter. If you are not already, Drop the Mic 2020. You're right here on Facebook right now, Drop the Mic 2020, but tell a friend and a family member so that they can follow us too. Get in there, read what we have to say, and share that information with family and friends and frenemies too. So share with everybody. And then join.
Become part of the Drop the Mic 2020 distribution network team.
Yes.
The cool people, the in crowd, the guys in high school that, were getting all the girls and guys.
The beautiful people.
Yeah, that's it. The beautiful people. That's who we is.
People. Yes. Yes. Beautiful, smart, caring, the caring people, the give a shit people. Join the give a shit club. That's what I call it.
The give a shit people. I like that.
That's who we are.
I think give a shit people is gasp. One gasp.
And certainly check out one of the organizations that Ben and I have laid out tonight. It's been so wonderful being with you guys, and we're not gone. We're just signing off to say so long, but we will be back. DC, we're going to do some of these maybe monthly instead of every week. But
anytime you call, Nina, I'm there.
We're coming. We're making great progress. So keep, to quote the great Reverend Jesse Jackson, baby, keep hope alive.